leading medical researchers are coming to the conclusion that marijuana, pot, grass, whatever you want to call it, is probably the most dangerous drug in the United States.
That was a little over 30 years ago, and, well, we have come a long way. If you've ever wondered what it would look like to live in a world where marijuana was legal and regulated, well, in Colorado, that day has arrived. Yesterday, Governor John Hickenlooper made history by signing 4 bills that make his state the first place in the country to fully regulate the recreational use, sale, and consumption of marijuana for adults.
Clearly, we are charting new territory. Other states haven't been through this process in the same way we have. Recreational marijuana is really a completely new entity.
This is not a small deal. Colorado has now created a legal marijuana regime that is more expansive than anything that exists anywhere else in the world. And it is one of the truly remarkable social experiments of our time, one in which a U.S. state attempts to transfer a black market criminal activity into a legitimate business and industry. Pulling that off is no small task, and here's how they're doing it. House Bill 1317 and Senate Bill 283 set up the regulatory framework for Colorado, dictating how the pot can grow and be sold. The state allows adults over 21 to buy and possess up to an ounce of the drug. If you're not a Colorado resident, you'll be allowed to buy a quarter of an ounce per transaction. Colorado residents can also grow up to 6 plants. Also,
the law requires advertising restrictions, child-proof packaging, and limits on how much THC can be in edible products.
One of the big appeals of this campaign to legalize marijuana was the fact that they even called it the campaign to regulate marijuana like alcohol, and they're taking that seriously. The bills require all marijuana products to include warning labels, serving size, meaning if it's a quarter of an ounce or half an ounce, and information on how much THC content it contains, which of course is the ingredient in marijuana that gets you high.
Much like liquor, you're going to know exactly how much drug you're getting.
That's important because a THC blood limit became the law the moment Governor Hickenlooper put his name to paper yesterday. In Colorado, you're now too high to drive if your blood contains more than 5 nanograms of THC.
Delta-9 THC typically stays in the system for up to 3 to 4 hours. Again, sometimes maybe a little bit longer based on the type of ingestion and also the potency of the marijuana.
Everyone will have to study up on this stuff, including the police, who are now required to get new drug DUI training, presumably because the old walk the yellow line test doesn't quite matter if you're high, and because the law will allow for a person to refute the charge that they're too high to drive. As Republican State Representative Mark Waller puts it, if you did not exhibit poor driving, you can put that on as evidence to say, look, my driving was not poor. I'm not unsafe to operate a motor vehicle. All right, so all of this is pretty common sense. So far, legislators have focused on the relatively easy part, how to regulate consumption. The real war to come is over how to regulate and oversee what is quickly going to become an extremely lucrative brand new industry. An industry that one former Microsoft executive turned would-be drug entrepreneur says, quote, will mint millionaires faster than Microsoft. Joining me tonight from Denver, Colorado, Mason Tvert, Communications Director for the Marijuana Policy Project. Mason ran the campaign for the Colorado Marijuana Legalization Ballot Initiative. All right, Mason, here's my question. The politics in Colorado on this issue, it was a fiercely fought battle, the ballot initiative. There were a lot of sitting members of the state legislature. The governor, I think, was officially opposed to it. Are they still opposed to it? Are the politics such that people are still trying to do what, say, Republicans are doing to Obamacare, which is to make sure the thing blows up and doesn't work? Or is there now buy-in from the state's politicians to try to make this thing work?
Well, I think by and large, there is a great deal of buy-in. Our governor, along with a great number of our state legislators and other state officials, folks with the various agencies that will be dealing with this, have really come together and put together what is a very robust, comprehensive, and responsible regulatory framework. There are certainly still some folks who want to do everything they can to keep adults from using marijuana, or in some cases, punish adults if they use marijuana. But by and large, we're seeing a system coming together, people working in the same direction. So
my question about the industry is the thing I find most fascinating here. Are you afraid of creating a monster? And what I mean by that is I've already seen articles about the industry hiring lobbyists, spending a lot of money on lobbyists. This, of course, will be an industry that's very closely regulated. And so being able to influence politicians is going to be very important. And right now, particularly in the beginning, when there's no brand occupying that space, it just seems like there's lots of money to be made on the table. Is this going to be a really brutal lobbying battle behind the scenes to figure out how this industry is structured?
Well, if you could point to an industry that doesn't have lobbyists and doesn't work to, establish policies that will allow it to function, then good luck. But the fact is that this will be, and already is, an industry like any other. It's an industry that's working to be responsible. Up until this point, we have had a marijuana industry in this country and in Colorado. It's been drug cartels and gangs, and we haven't known who's growing marijuana, who they're selling it to, where and when, or what people are even buying. And now we will have the ability to know that. So, this is a new industry. We have the ability to start from scratch. This isn't big tobacco. Let's put this in context. Tobacco kills about 400,000 Americans per year, alcohol about 40,000 Americans, and marijuana's never killed a single human being in history. So that's not to say it shouldn't be regulated and controlled. That's just to say that while this is new and some people might have knee-jerk reactions, we need to treat the product like it is, which is a relatively benign substance that millions of adults in this country use responsibly.
Jimmy Carter's former drug czar, Dr. Peter Bourne, said back in 2012, the tobacco companies have set up model programs, so if we're to be legalized, they can immediately jump into marketing. I know there's been a lot of concern, you just said it's not big tobacco, about this becoming either an adjunct of actual existing big tobacco or the next version of big tobacco. Who is investing right now? Where's the money coming from for the industry in Colorado in its nascent state?
Well, quite frankly, I am not seeing any sort of big tobacco involvement. But if the folks at Big Tobacco would like to ditch cigarettes and start selling a product that doesn't kill anyone, I think that would be a net positive. But ultimately, the people getting into this are typical people that would invest in any business. One of the things that I look at this industry like here in Colorado is the restaurant industry. There's a lot of competition. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stress involved. There's a lot of overhead. Not everyone can cut it, but if someone goes out of business, someone else buys them out, and some people are successful and they start a chain. I mean, it's really just like any other industry.
That's going to be interesting to see whether that competition is borne out as this becomes reality. Mason Tvert of the Marijuana Policy Project, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, for anyone who likes to compare the latest scandal du jour with Watergate, a public service on your behalf is coming up next.